The streets had fallen unnaturally silent. Homes once filled with laughter were now sealed shut, their doors never opening again. People whispered that death itself had begun wandering from house to house. No one understood why healthy neighbors suddenly collapsed. One family mourned a loved one, only to lose another before the sun had set. Fear spread faster than any messenger ever could. Rumors swept through every town. Some believed the air had turned poisonous. Others feared an invisible curse had been unleashed upon humanity. No explanation seemed impossible anymore. The nightmare did not begin in a single village. It traveled silently across busy trade routes, hidden among ships, merchants, and the tiny fleas carried by black rats. Every port unknowingly welcomed disaster. By the time people realized something was terribly wrong, it had already crossed seas and borders. The disease moved from town to town with terrifying speed, leaving panic in its wake. Those who fell ill first complained of fever and exhaustion. Soon, painful swellings appeared beneath their arms and around their necks. Families could do little but watch and hope. The illness struck so quickly that many who seemed healthy in the morning were gone within days. Entire households disappeared before anyone could understand what they were facing. Doctors searched desperately for answers. They burned herbs, mixed strange medicines, and offered desperate remedies. None of them could stop the relentless spread of the disease. As the number of deaths increased, everyday life began to collapse. Markets emptied, churches filled with mourners, and silence replaced the noise of once thriving cities. Only then did people begin to understand the horrifying truth. They were living through a catastrophe that would become one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. And the worst was still to come. As fear tightened its grip, desperate families abandoned loved ones in hopes of saving themselves. Doors were locked from the outside, and silence became more terrifying than screams. Entire villages seemed to vanish overnight. Travelers found abandoned homes, empty farms, and churches with no one left to ring their bells. It was as though life itself had disappeared. Many believed the plague was a punishment from heaven. Crowds gathered in prayer, begging for mercy, while others searched for someone to blame for the unimaginable suffering. Without knowing that fleas and rats help spread the disease, people tried every remedy they could imagine. Herbs burned through the night, strange potions were swallowed, and hope faded with each passing day. The streets that once echoed with merchants and children became eerily quiet. Shops closed their doors, markets stood abandoned, and every stranger was seen as a possible threat. With more people dying each day, burial grounds quickly filled beyond capacity. Communities struggled to honor the dead while trying to protect the living from an enemy they could not see. Even those who cared for the sick were not spared. Healers, priests, and family members risked everything, knowing that every act of compassion could become their last. The plague ignored wealth and power. Noble families, merchants, laborious, and children all faced the same terrifying uncertainty, proving that no social class could escape its reach. Months turned into years, and the relentless disease continued its march across continents. Every road, every port, and every crowded settlement offered another opportunity for it to spread. By now, people had stopped asking when the nightmare began. Instead, they wondered whether it would ever end. Yet history would remember this tragedy for more than its staggering death toll. Then, almost as mysteriously as it had arrived, the plague began to lose its grip in some regions. Fewer homes fell silent each day, but the scars it left behind could never be erased. When survivors stepped outside, they barely recognized the world around them. Empty homes lined the streets, abandoned farms stretched into the distance, and entire communities had simply disappeared. With so many lives lost, there were too few workers to harvest crops or build homes. For the first time in generations, ordinary laborists found their work more valuable than ever before. The catastrophe reshaped kingdoms in ways no army ever could. Wages rose, old traditions weakened, and the balance between rulers and workers slowly began to change. The disaster also changed the way people viewed sickness. Communities slowly realized that isolating the ill and controlling travel could help slow the spread of deadly diseases. Historians believe the Black Death claimed tens of millions of lives across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. It remains one of the deadliest pandemics ever recorded in human history. Even centuries later, scientists continue to study the plague. Modern research has revealed that the disease was caused by a bacterium spread primarily through fleas that lived on rodents. The Black Death became more than a historical tragedy. It transformed economies, changed societies, and force humanity to rethink how disease spreads and how communities respond to crisis. Today, the empty villages, forgotten graves, and ancient records still tell the story of a world brought to its knees by an invisible enemy. Their silence speaks louder than words ever could. The Black Death was not remembered simply because millions died. It is remembered because it changed the course of civilization, proving that the smallest unseen threat can alter the fate of humanity. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: history's darkest chapters are never as distant as they seem. If this story fascinated you, there are many more dark chapters hidden within human history. Some are well known, while others have almost been forgotten. Subscribe for more true stories from history's darkest moments. In the next episode, we'll uncover another true story that pushed ordinary people to the limits of survival.